Most companies chase the title of being a leading company. They plaster awards on walls, brag about numbers, and call it leadership. But titles don't inspire people. Direction does. The real question is not how high you rank, but how far your vision reaches. Because in every industry, there are those who lead the market and those who move it forward. One is admired, the other is followed. And the difference between them isn't strategy, it's purpose. The world doesn't need another company that competes, it needs one that compels. So ask yourself, are you building a business that dominates or a cause that defines the future? Because the clock is ticking, and the next era of leadership won't be owned by the biggest. It will be led by the boldest. Titles impress because they give the illusion of success. They make people stop and look, but not necessarily follow. In the world of business, it's easy to become obsessed with being seen as the best, number one in your industry, the leader in your category, the company everyone else compares themselves to. But that kind of leadership is often just a reflection of recognition, not purpose. When a man earns a title, he feels validated. When a company earns one, it feels accomplished. Yet the real test isn't in the applause. It's in what happens when the applause fades. Purpose leads because it anchors action to meaning. It's what separates those who win for the moment from those who build movements that outlast them. Men, by nature, are driven by conquest, the urge to achieve, to prove, to conquer the next mountain. But conquest without cause leads to emptiness. Women, on the other hand, often lead from connection. They seek to nurture, to align, to give meaning to progress. When you combine the drive of a man with the depth of a woman, you get leadership that not only moves markets, but moves hearts. A company that leads does so not because of what it has, but because of what it believes. A title might open doors, but purpose opens hearts. People don't rally behind a company because of its profits or position. They rally because of its promise. Think about the leaders who inspire us most. They don't talk about what they've achieved. They talk about why they're doing it. That why creates trust, and trust is the currency of leadership. When a company's purpose becomes clear, it attracts people who share its belief, not just those who need a paycheck. That's when work transforms from a job into a journey. Men often mistake control for leadership. They think the one who makes the decisions leads. But leadership isn't about authority, it's about authenticity. Women tend to sense this faster. They intuitively read between words, feel the energy behind actions, and follow conviction over command. The companies that lead in the future will be the ones that combine masculine clarity with feminine empathy. Decisive yet human, ambitious yet grounded. Because leadership isn't a contest, it's a connection. The danger of titles is that they feed the ego while starving the purpose. Once you become a leading company, the instinct is to protect that position rather than evolve it. Men understand this struggle deeply. It's the same battle between achievement and fulfillment. You can win the game, but still feel lost in it. Women see it too. They can sense when success feels hollow. The companies that lead are the ones that don't chase validation. They chase value. They keep asking, are we still serving the reason we started? Purpose leads because it asks for more than performance. It asks for alignment. It demands that every decision, every innovation, and every conversation point back to something bigger than profit. Men thrive when their effort means something. Women thrive when their effort connects to something. Both are right, because meaning is the bridge between human motivation and organizational momentum. A company that leads isn't measured by how loud it sounds. It's measured by how deeply it's felt. Growth is one of the most misunderstood words in business and in life. Everyone wants it: more customers, more followers, more profits, more recognition. But growth alone doesn't guarantee progress. In fact, it often hides the lack of it. A company can grow in numbers and still shrink in meaning. A man can climb the ladder and still feel lost at the top. Growth without direction isn't leadership. It's motion without purpose. It looks impressive on paper, but feels hollow in practice, because expansion without intention eventually collapses under its own weight. Direction gives growth its meaning. It's what turns speed into progress and movement into momentum. Men are naturally wired to move forward, to chase the next goal, the next challenge, the next win. It's a psychological instinct rooted in proving worth through achievement. But when that drive lacks clarity, it turns into restlessness. Women, in contrast, often seek alignment before acceleration. They want to know why before where. That balance between masculine momentum and feminine intuition is what creates sustainable leadership. A company that grows without asking why it's growing ends up chasing vanity instead of value. The problem isn't that businesses don't grow fast enough. It's that they grow without a compass. In the pursuit of expansion, they start measuring success by scale instead of significance. They add layers, products, and people without asking whether each step moves them closer to their vision or just further from their soul. Men fall into the same trap. They accumulate achievements like badges of honor, but often can't explain what they're actually working toward. Women see through that illusion. They know that more isn't always better. Sometimes it's just louder. Direction transforms growth from an outcome into a calling. It forces leaders to define the destination before celebrating the distance. The most powerful companies aren't the biggest. They're the ones that grow towards something specific, something human. They know who they are serving and why it matters. Men are at their strongest when their growth serves a mission greater than ego. Women are at their most influential when their clarity nurtures that mission into something meaningful. Together, they build organizations that expand not just in reach, but in relevance. The danger of growth without direction is that it feeds activity but starves purpose. It makes teams busy but not bonded, profitable but not proud. Men often equate business with importance. It feels productive. It feels like progress. But women can sense the difference between motion and meaning. They can feel when a company is drifting, even if it's growing. That's why the future belongs to those who lead with vision first and volume second. Growth should never be the goal. It should be the result of pursuing something worth expanding. Direction gives growth its soul. It reminds us that scaling faster doesn't matter if we're scaling the wrong mountain. Men thrive when they know the battle is worth fighting. Women thrive when they know the journey is worth taking. Both seek significance, not just success. And that's the difference between a company that expands, a company that evolves. One fills space, the other defines it. Competition is the easiest trap to fall into because it gives the illusion of progress. The moment you start measuring yourself against others, you stop measuring yourself against your own potential. Most companies spend their energy trying to be better. Better prices, better features, better marketing. But the best companies don't try to be better. They try to be different. They don't play to win the game. They change how it's played. Competing keeps you focused on others. Defining keeps you focused on purpose. One is driven by fear of falling behind, the other by conviction to move ahead. Men understand competition deeply. It's wired into their psychology. From a young age, they are taught that success means winning, outperforming, outshining the rest. It builds discipline, but also dependency. Because the moment the opponent disappears, so does the direction. Women see the game differently. Their strength often lies not in confrontation, but in creation. They look for meaning, connection, and collaboration over dominance. When you merge that masculine drive to conquer with the feminine instinct to create, you get innovation that reshapes entire industries. The best companies channel that balance. They use competition as information, not inspiration. They study others to learn, not to copy. Men often equate progress with victory, but victory is temporary when it's defined by comparison. Women intuitively sense that leadership is not about being ahead, it's about being aligned. When a company operates from alignment, it starts to attract rather than chase. It creates its own category instead of fighting for a place in someone else's. That's how markets shift and movements begin. Competing limits your imagination to what already exists. Redefining the game demands vision for what doesn't. The companies that changed the world never asked, how do we beat them? They asked, what if we did this differently? Men, with their hunger to push limits, bring the courage to challenge the status quo. Women bring the sensitivity to understand what people truly need beyond products and profits. Together, that duality doesn't just disrupt markets, it humanizes them. When a company redefines the game, it stops chasing trends, it starts setting them. It moves from reaction to creation. That shift doesn't come from strategy alone. It comes from belief. Men tend to lead from logic, seeking to outthink the competition. Women often lead from intuition, sensing the unseen forces that shape human behavior. The magic happens when both perspectives combine, when logic builds the structure and intuition fuels the soul. That's where innovation becomes inevitable. Competition ends when authenticity begins. The best companies understand that no one can replicate what is rooted in identity. They focus less on proving themselves and more on expressing themselves. Men feel most alive when their work challenges them. Women feel most fulfilled when their work connects them. When both forces align, competition becomes irrelevant Because when you lead with authenticity and create from purpose, you start writing the old game. You start writing the new one. People don't follow products, they follow belief. Products may attract attention, but belief captures loyalty. Every company says they have the best product, the best service, the best team, but that's not what makes people stay. People stay because something about what you stand for resonates with who they are. Belief creates belonging, and belonging is far more powerful than branding. You can buy loyalty with discounts, but you can only earn devotion through meaning. The difference between a company that sells and a company that's a simple one pushes, features the other, pulls hearts. Belief is the invisible thread that connects human beings to a cause. Men and women respond to it differently, but both are driven by it. Men follow belief because it gives their actions a sense of mission. It transforms effort into purpose and achievement into identity. They need to feel like what they're doing matters. Women follow belief because it gives connection depth. They don't just want to participate. They want to feel aligned. They need to know that what they're contributing to reflects who they are. Together, this creates culture, not just commerce. It's the fusion of conviction and care that turns customers into communities. When a company stands for something, it stops needing to sell itself. Belief becomes its marketing strategy. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Men respect strength, but they follow conviction. Women admire success, but they trust authenticity. The combination of those two instincts creates emotional gravity, a pull that draws people in not because of what's offered, but because of what's believed. When people share your belief, they become your voice, your movement, your momentum. A product can satisfy a need, but a belief satisfies a longing. Men are often wired to pursue performance. They want the best, fastest, strongest solution. But performance fades once the next version arrives. Women, on the other hand, look for meaning beneath the product. They ask, does this align with who I am? That's why belief outlasts innovation. Technology evolves, trends change, markets shift, but belief remains the compass that keeps everything aligned. It's the one thing that can't be copied, cloned, or commodified. When belief drives business, people feel something before they understand it. That emotional resonance builds trust long before a transaction ever happens. Men are drawn to leaders who embody confidence. Women are drawn to leaders who embody consistency. Belief bridges both. It provides confidence with a cause and consistency with a heart. That's why movements outlive markets. They aren't built on what people buy, but on what people believe together. Belief gives a company its soul. It turns work into worship and consumers into advocates. Men want to conquer the world. Women want to connect with it. But when they unite under a shared belief, they both begin to change it. A product might attract the eye, but a belief captures the spirit. And once people believe in you, they no longer follow your product, they follow your purpose. Innovation has become one of the most overused words in business. Every company claims to be innovative. Every leader talks about disruption. And every product is branded as the next big thing. But innovation by itself means nothing without intention. It's easy to create something new. It's far harder to create something necessary. Without purpose behind progress, innovation becomes noisy loud, exciting, but quickly forgotten. The world doesn't need more new ideas. It needs ideas that matter. Intention gives innovation its direction. It's what separates those who create for attention from those who create for impact. Men are often drawn to innovation for the thrill of achievement. The adrenaline of building, breaking, and pushing limits. It's a reflection of their inner drive to conquer and prove capability. But that energy without focus can become chaos. Motion without meaning. Women, on the other hand, tend to seek connection in creation. They innovate not to impress, but to improve, not to be seen, but to serve. When that masculine drive for progress meets feminine clarity of purpose, innovation becomes something far more powerful. It becomes meaningful evolution. The danger of innovation without intention is that it feeds the ego but starves the mission. Companies start chasing trends rather than building truths. They release products because they can, not because they should. Men fall into this trap too. They often equate business with progress, mistaking constant activity for forward movement. Women sense this imbalance faster. They can feel when something lacks heart, even if it looks successful. Intention is what aligns logic with empathy, strategy with soul. It's the reason some inventions change lives while others just fill shelves. Innovation without intention also creates disconnection. When a company innovates only for growth, it forgets the human beings it's meant to serve. Men often pursue efficiency, how to make things faster, cheaper, more powerful. But women instinctively ask, who is this helping? And how does it make life better? That human lens is what turns invention into influence. The future won't be defined by those who innovate the most, but by those who innovate with meaning. Progress for progress's sake doesn't inspire anyone. Progress with purpose moves everyone. True innovation begins not with ideas, but with empathy. You can't design the future if you don't understand the people who will live in it. Men are natural problem solvers. They see challenges and want to fix them. Women are natural sense makers. They feel challenges and want to heal them. When both instincts unite, innovation becomes human, centered, not market-driven. It stops being about the next product launch and starts being about the next step toward better living. Companies that lead with this mindset don't just disrupt industries, they elevate them. Every great innovation that has stood the test of time was born from intention, not ambition. It wasn't about doing more, it was about doing what mattered. Men want to build legacies that last. Women want to nurture legacies that mean something. Both desires find their strength in purpose. When innovation serves humanity rather than headlines, it stops being noise and starts becoming a signal that progress, at its best, still remembers its reason for being. You don't lead markets, you lead minds. Markets don't move because of numbers, they move because of narratives. Every great company, every visionary leader, every movement that reshaped an industry began not by changing products, but by changing perception. The true battlefield of business isn't fought in market share. It's fought in belief systems. Because people don't buy from logic first. They buy from what speaks to their identity. The buy from what speaks to their identity wins the moment, but the one that captures the heart defines the era. Leadership begins in the invisible, the realm of thought, emotion, and meaning. Men and women experience this space differently, but both are equally influenced by it. Men are wired to lead through clarity. They look for vision, structure, and strength. They want to understand where they're going and why it matters. Women are wired to lead through connection. They seek alignment, understanding, and trust. They want to feel that what they're part of is genuine. When a company learns to lead both minds and hearts, it stops chasing the market and starts shaping it. Markets respond to momentum, but minds respond to meaning. The reason some companies dominate industries while others fade away isn't because they had a better product. It's because they had a clearer message. Men respond to belief that challenges them. It calls out the competitor within. Women respond to belief that includes them. It calls out the connector within. Together, these instincts form the foundation of loyalty. It's not about manipulation or persuasion. It's about inspiration. People follow those who make them feel seen, understood, and significant. Leading markets is about competition, but leading minds is about conviction. Competition forces you to fight for attention. Conviction invites attention naturally. Men often fall into the trap of trying to outperform others, outwork, outthink, outlast. But leadership isn't a race. It's a resonance. Women sense this more intuitively. They understand that influence doesn't come from being louder, but from being clearer. The strongest leaders don't shout to be heard. They speak with such purpose that others quiet down to listen. The companies that truly lead don't ask, "What's trending?" They ask, "What's true?" They understand that markets are temporary, but human behavior is timeless. Men are drawn to leaders who represent strength and direction. Women are drawn to leaders who represent empathy and authenticity. When both needs are met, you create more than customers. You create believers. Markets fluctuate, but belief endures. That's why the companies that shape culture never need to chase demand. They define it. To lead minds, you must first understand them. Men often seek logic before emotion. They want facts that fuel confidence. Women often seek emotion before logic. They want trust that supports confidence. The most effective leaders speak both languages at once. They use logic to guide and emotion to ground. They build frameworks that make people feel safe to believe. Because leading the mind isn't about control. It's about clarity. When people understand why you do what you do, they don't need convincing, they need alignment. Markets may follow trends, but people follow truth. Men are inspired by challenge. They want something to fight for. Women are inspired by connection. They want something to care for. Together, they create movements that can't be contained by strategy alone. When a company leads minds, it doesn't just win customers. It earns followers who carry its message forward. That's the essence of influence. You don't lead through power. You lead through presence. You don't command loyalty, you cultivate belief. Because the moment your message lives in someone's mind, your leadership has already begun to move the market.